Alright, Barjo, let's take a long walk through some dangerous lands.
Are we there yet?
Where's lunch?
The Banner Saga 2 is an indie turn-based strategy game with a strong narrative focus. The first game was crowdfunded and created by a trio of former BioWare developers, and you can certainly see their influence and experience in the choice-consequence narrative style.
These games also have a very different feel to other turn-based strategy games out there. This single-player sequel takes place right after the last game, so if you finish that, it'll pick up your save file and take into account all of the choices you've made and who lived and who died.
If you didn't finish the first game though, it doesn't matter, you just pick a leader and then start your long walk to the human capital city. And it is a very long walk. Along the way, you'll attempt to keep your army together against an evil force known as the Stone-Armored Dredge. They're pillaging the land, the world is in chaos, and there's also a giant mountain-breaking serpent who isn't helping.
One of the first things you notice about the game is the beautiful hand-drawn Disney-style animations and cutscenes.
Oh, they're just so lovely, aren't they?
Yeah, and I love the fantasy Viking setting too. The animation is a bit dreamlike and reminded me of the cartoons I grew up with.
Overall, there aren't that many of these cutscenes, but I think there's enough. They add a good flavour to the game, and they really paint the picture of this world.
Yeah, I think there's quite a clear focus on story and dialogue in this game that really made it feel like a true saga, and it's not something that turn-based games usually focus on.
True. There is this war going on with this mysterious and dark enemy. The Dredge are massive in number. And they're terrifying, and whenever a new one pops up, you're always like, oh no, what's this guy gonna do? And it's always awful.
Yeah, I quite like the ancient stone creature design of the Dredge, and all the creatures you come up against are well designed. They've successfully built a fascinating and well-rounded universe, and that's no easy feat when almost all of the action takes place on small grids.
There's also horse people. Weird centaur-like beasts that don't speak very much or wear very many clothes. Where would the pants go on them anyway though, Hex?
I mean, no one can know for sure, Barjo. Battles are broken up with you leading a caravan across a huge map, all to the dark melodies created by BAFTA and Grammy Award-winning composer Austin Wintory. At times, you'll need to make camp to improve morale, which affects fights. And if you start to run out of supplies, people will start dying. Managing the people and the supply stocks of this caravan is half the game, and it's where most of the story events spring up.
Yeah, and these little interactions will force you to make some serious role-playing decisions. I was surprised at how fun and intense these were, Hex. And the best part is all these decisions have a real impact on your journey. Some might start a fight, others might help you get across a rickety bridge without losing anyone, or you might choose to sacrifice some supplies to put up barricades in a fight. Or you might sacrifice time to find a rare item.
You're always making choices in and out of the battlefield, and each decision feels like a real test of your reasoning. You need to really pay attention or face the consequences. I have to say, in a game like this, I didn't expect to have so many tense, stressful moments just worrying about what effect my dialogue choices would have.
Yeah, it's nail-biting stuff, especially as you're just watching your group walk along like lemmings.
Yeah, you just know something bad's gonna happen.
This feels so much like a choose-your-own-adventure book.
Yeah, although instead of keeping your fingers in the previous pages so that you can go back and make a different decision, you can just reload an old save file.
That's cheating, Hex. You're a cheater. I did it all the time. There's only minimal voice acting, and I did find that made it a little hard to keep up with all the characters and what their motivations were, but I still enjoyed these stories and interactions so much. It's hardcore RPG stuff, and when you make a decision that costs lives, you'll be kicking yourself.
Yeah, you'll also be kicking yourself a lot in combat because there is a lot to get your head around. If you played the last game, you'll have a leg up, of course, but if not, the first thing you need to get used to is positioning. Many of your bigger, tougher units take up 4 squares on the map. It can be very easy to block off your own soldiers, and that can cost a match.
Yeah, the combat system is really quite unique. Units have an armor rating and a health rating, but health also equals your strength. So if a unit has low health, it's not going to do much damage. Also, you can't damage a unit's health strength very effectively if they have heaps of armor. It's a bit hard to explain, but the point is you're always making decisions about whether to go for direct damage or go to take out armor so you can get other units to take out the enemy in 1 or 2 hits. Each move just has so much to think about.
Yeah, such as when to use willpower, for example, which you spend to increase your movement distance or the power of an attack. It's a fun mechanic, and you quickly learn to manage willpower very carefully and not just rush into fights.
Yeah, sometimes it's better to let the enemies come to you. Even after spending heaps of time with this game, I'm still trying to work out the best strategies and get my head around how to position units right. I'm enjoying the whole process though.
Yeah, the tide of battle can turn very quickly. I like that though, it's dynamic and fierce combat with decent stakes. And that's a hard thing to pull off with turn-based games. There is a lot to manage, and when my brain got tired, it was just so hard to keep track of which units did what.
Yeah, I struggled with that too, and I think it's probably because they're not traditional classes. And keeping track of which gear you've put on them and how that affects the battle is tricky as well. It's also tricky working out where you should spend your XP or renown. Do you spend it on items or supplies, or leveling up a bunch of lower level characters, or saving up to level up higher ones?
Oh, it's so stressful. I just want to know that I'm spending my XP wisely, and I'm never sure.
Yeah, me either. In fact, I'm at the point now where I think I might just restart the whole game so I can make a plan. But, you know, kind of much like the caravan itself, you just need to plow on.
I don't like it. But I don't like all these humans on the verge of panic either.
This is a hard slog. It's not meant to be easy.
Yeah, I think you just really need to make a leveling plan early on, especially if you want to play on hard. There are more maps this time around too, which is very welcome as the last game just didn't have enough. Also, now there are more scripted events and unique objectives within the fights themselves, and that also keeps the fights from feeling repetitive.
There's also a lot of support units now which can buff enemies or even redirect damage. They've refined the combat for this sequel, and I think they've made good choices. There are still a few interface quirks that bug me, but overall it's pretty great, and it works well with the controller too. What are you going to give it overall, Hex?
Well, this is a beautiful strategy game, and it is worth taking the time to fully absorb the story because that's how you'll get the most out of it. I'm giving it 3.5 out of 5 stars.
Yeah, it's a slow burn, you gotta commit. I'm a big fan of these kinds of strategy games, and I think this is a really unique one in a beautiful world, so I'm gonna give it 4 out of 5 stars.
Now stand down, or you'll be missing more than your horns.
Stand down, you son of a yacht!